All right, it's the second day or the first day after the announcement of Nigeria's president-elect. Nigeria has a new Grand Commander of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, of the country, and of course, a new Chief Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress, APC, has been declared by the Independent National Electoral Commission as winner of the February 25th presidential election. And so much reaction to that, so much congratulations, so much disagreement, and some persons heading to court. Well, my name is Emmanuel Ujadi, and we welcome you to the show this morning, Morning Spring, on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is from where it drops and when it drops. You can follow us live on YouTube at Western Spring Television by subscribing to our channel. You can also check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Western Spring Television. But on Twitter, you'll find us there as WSTV_NG, and we're reaching you live from Osogbo, the capital of Osun State, on Star Times Channel 190 on the DTT platform. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. It's which is a Thursday, Throwback Thursday, but Thursday, March 2nd, 2023.
Thanks for joining us again this morning. I am Temitope Ajijola, and yes, as Emmanuel rightly pointed out, it's also the morning after the certificate of return was presented to the president-elect and the vice president-elect as well.
Well, so I saw that video yesterday and some of the statements made by the president-elect, and some of those statements have made headlines this morning, which we'll be bringing to you. You know what we do for you already on the show. We bring to you the newspaper analysis segment, where we go through the dailies and show you what's on their pages and who and what is in the news. We also bring you the interview segment, and of course, for some time now, you've not been seeing Spring Trends. That's because of the delicate nature of the times. You know, we need to talk about the elections, but hopefully next week we'll come back with Spring Trends. But in the meantime, we'll take a break. Now, when we come back, we look at the faces of the national dailies, some of the national dailies, and tell you what is on their faces this morning. Oh, well, welcome back to the show, Morning Spring, on Western Spring Television. We'll go straight to the papers this morning. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper, as usual. The banner headline on the Punch newspaper says, Tinubu woos Atiku Obi as parties reject results. Number 3 riders there, PDP, LP, others refuse to sign election result sheet in Abuja. Buhari, Oshibajo, UK, ECOWAS, Senate governors congratulate president-elect. Obi campaigns legal battle as Tinubu visits Buhari in Daura. Expected reaction to this to that story, Temitope.
Yes, the fact that there's a wooing after this election is, well, it's not surprising. I think that's what's expected of him to do, but I don't know how much of wooing can woo these people actually, especially as they've said that there will be legal battles after this, after the announcement. So we really are in for interesting times after this, after the announcement, and in the coming months, really.
Yes,
I mean, the first months of the president-elect's, coming to office will be riddled by lots of legal battles and all. But then it's also good news that at least we have someone named as president. It won't leave the society, it won't leave the nation, at ransom. It would steer us in some sort of right direction. At least someone will be at the helm of affairs, piloting.
Yes, that's what it is. Well, look at the riders there, PDP, Labour Party, and NPP. Others refused to sign election result sheet in Abuja. At the time, the PDP and the LP walked out of the coalition center. The NNPP was still there, saying that they were part of the process and they were not walking out. But eventually, they also had to walk out, and now they are contesting the result. I've seen some of those congratulatory messages from the president. In fact, the vice president was at the ICC yesterday when certificate of return was issued to the president-elect and his vice. Also, a lot of congratulations pouring in, really, and you expect that to happen. Even though the results are being contested, there are those who seem satisfied the result,
yeah.
And then the legal battles, we'll see how those battles, all that battle will go eventually. The president-elect has visited his predecessor, or his soon-to-be predecessor in Daura right there. And below that story, you see the demographic. You see how many states was won by whom, and also the total votes. You already know that they shared 12 states each. The three of them shared 12 states. Waikwa Rabi Musa, just Kano, his own state. Well, that's not about that story. Beside the story on page 7, there's a caricature there. Emile Khan, the kingmaker who became king. You can read that piece on page 7. Though some persons have said they're not comfortable with using such terms in a democracy, the kingmaker, king, and all of that. We are pretty democracy. The people are the ones who choose elected representatives.
But I think it's a right, description.
Yes.
It's how he has always even said several. I placed this one here. I placed this here. I placed that here. So people are just saying what he has been said saying, yes. Exactly. And people have also said that this seemed like a relegation. I mean, a kingmaker seems to be, in a position. Exactly. Board. Yes. Should be in a place of advisory position. But then the kingmaker who has become king, some have said that's some sort of relegation.
Well, that's what ambition can do. As humans, we are almost never satisfied by what we have, so we want to get more. And there's no crime in that, really, being ambitious. It's just that let your ambition be legal, and like he's gone through the process, to become president-elect. Well, above the nameplate this morning, banks' assets rise to 73 trillion on page 29. Well, some cheering sort of news after all of the gloomy and some really dark stories coming out of the country. But having CBN tell us that our banks' assets are rising is really some cheering news.
Yes, and as it has been, that the CBN has been on the wrong side of the news lately. And right now we have attention shifted from the CBN now to INEC. INEC has been the one since Saturday, and some have placed INEC on also the wrong side of the news. But then the CBN this morning has spoken and is giving us some cherry news, just like you said.
Yes, some cherry news. Also on the page, not really sharing, some sort of request on page 13. Grant Nigerians visas on arrival. Federal government tells India. Grant Nigerians visas on arrival. Federal government tells India. That's on page 13 of the newspaper, the Punch newspaper. You can go read up why the federal government is making that request on the Punch newspaper. And on page 19, marketers to sanction depots, filling stations overpricing fuel. Again, a stark reminder of our current realities. The election of our current realities. The elections seem to have taken away the fact that there's an ongoing cash crunch, there's an ongoing fuel scarcity, and these two crises, as they were, have almost crippled, ground the nation to a halt. Our marketers are threatening to sanction. I mean, we live in a country where sanctions barely do anything. People would always want to cut corners, and it speaks to the sincerity of ourselves as Nigerians. We spoke about the cash issue, about people saying if you want to transfer, you must add some charges. And I was having that discussion with someone. I said that I would also be charged for sending you money. So why am I shouldering the cost of you receiving the money while shouldering the cost of me sending the money? I mean, if you want, you should. I mean, we should do that. Before this cash crunch, you were taking transfers. You never had any sort, and saying you have to get money from POS, but the money is into your account. Withdrawing anytime soon. So I think it's a good one. We hope that these sanctions, or this threat of sanctions, will call these people to order and rein them in. And beside the nameplate of the Punch newspaper this morning, Obi, the trader who changed the game, and the trader is in quote because he's always referred to himself as a businessman, and a lot of persons may want to misread that. I don't think it's an insult. I think it's just the way the man has always presented. It's just the way the man has always presented himself. And That's also, related to the story on page 7, the Emilio Kong Kingmaker,
Yes.
and then Obi, the trader who changed the
I
game.
think this is a good way. It has been captured right.
Yes.
He actually changed the game.
Yes.
He actually changed the game.
Yes, he did. Let's take you through the figures again before we leave the Punch newspaper this morning. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress scored a total of 8,794,726. Atiku Abubakar of the PDP, People's Democratic Party, scored 6,984,520. Peter Gregory Obi of the Labour Party scored 6,101,533. Rabiu Musa Kwakwanso of the NNPP, New Nigeria's People's Party, scored 1,496,687. Well, that's all on the Punch newspaper this morning.
All right, moving on quickly to the Nation newspaper, and the banner headline says, "I hear you loud and clear. President-elect tells youths." And the writers say, young Nigerians will get full attention. Tinubu promises good governance, functional economy, security. President-elect, VP-elect get certificate of return.
Yesterday, I saw that clip. We saw it here on the station, and I was sort of mad. When I heard the statement.
Understandably so.
Yes, understandably so. No, not for the reason. I don't know what reasons are you talking about? But I was mad because the man stood there and was saying that someday soon a young person will stand where he's standing. I found that insulting to the Nigerian youths. So that is important for a young person to be president. But you're saying that is after you finish your tenure. By the time you finish your tenure, a lot of young Nigerians would have left the country. And that leaves us with some sort of gerontocracy where old people rule. Where is the place of young people? We had a 39-year-old presidential candidate, Christopher Mumolen of the Accord Party. We had younger people who were on the ballot.
Yeah.
So for you to now stand and say that young people will someday, take up your position, be where you are, asking them to be patient, they've been patient enough. Nigerian youths have been, and that's what translated into the vote. Youths came out this time to say we want a shot at this thing. Look at all the presidents we've had. Look at Yar'Adua, you look at Obasanjo, look at Goodluck Jonathan, look at President Buhari. That's after 1999 democracy returned now. These are old people. These are people who have been in the system. They've ruled at one point or the other. Yar'Adua, governor, Obasanjo, head of state military, Goodluck, governor, Buhari, military head of state, Asiwaju, a senator and a governor. Of course, some of those others on the ballot were also former political holders. But my problem is, if you recognize the youths, then allow them run.
Yes.
If you recognize them, then give them the mandate. Don't come tell us that one day you will stand here, you'll be president. It just, that was the rhetoric before the elections too. He said it during the campaign that yes, the youths deserve to contest, but he will finish his term. I didn't find that statement very sensitive, considering the times that we are in. I think you should be appealing to the youth and not telling them that you could have had this, but I want to have it now. That's how I interpreted it.
Yes.
You could have had this. This could have been your time.
Because you said you hear them loud and clear, and it's obvious that the youths are aggrieved with the older generation. They don't want the older generation taking the affairs of the country as much as they were. It's time that youths became really included. The youth should be the one including some
the old persons for advisory roles.
Exactly.
It's saddening when you see young people who should be aspiring to power. The Prime Minister of Finland, Marin Martin, is about 39 or thereabouts. The one in New Zealand who recently resigned, the woman, is in her early 40s. You have young people in many of these we are a developing nation. We have young people leading these developing nations, and they're doing well. In fact, some analysis said during the COVID era, the countries that bounced back early, including in terms of economy, were countries led by young people, especially women. So you begin to wonder, how old is Rishi Sunak of the UK. Although age doesn't translate to competence,
Of course.
but if you acknowledge something, then that is what you should be working towards. That's my only grouse.
Yeah, so it's important that we ask Asiwaju what exactly he's hearing.
No, he
Because
says
they might be hearing different
young
things.
Nigerians will get full attention. Yes, and for someone who
So he feels that they're crying for attention. Attention for what?
well, it's also
So-
saying promising good governance and functional economy.
Of course, he
and
should promise
security.
that, because that's exactly what we're expecting from him right now. We need the good governance. We need a functional economy. Very important at this point.
Yes.
I remember one of our analysts saying that we cannot afford to get it wrong anymore. I mean, every single step the next president would take
be the
has
right
to
one.
be right. So he cannot afford to make mistakes, especially too with security.
One thing that is scary for me is if you hear the youths loud and clear, you have to be active on social media because that's where they are. That's where the youths are.
Yeah.
The youths have gone beyond. I like to say they've gone beyond bars and newspaper stands. You find them on football fields. You find them on social media. But you have said that you don't even listen to social media. You only rely on what you're told. And we trust cronies and sycophants to always tell you what isn't the truth. So how do you get? That's why I was your question. What is he hearing? What is he hearing
Exactly.
about the Nigerian youth? Well, so much is riding on the declaration
A lot,
Asiwaju Tinubu.
really.
Yes.
And there have been statements, especially here. We're still going to get to that now. But then let's go to the bottom strip where it says Jam sacks due over alleged forgery. And that's on page 6. Excited Osun Ondo residents celebrate Tinubu. Well, I don't know about that, but that's on page 9.
Did you see any excitement in town yesterday? Did you see any?
I didn't.
Okay, so maybe
really.
some other part of Osun inside, maybe the hinterland.
So we should also say that while we don't know exactly what the president-elect is hearing, we don't also know the excited Osun people. But I'm sure
so
some
it should be
people,
most likely APC stronghold
yes,
in Osun
we're
State where you have
jubilating.
jubilations there.
Okay. All right. So just at headline, FEC okays Africa Union Convention on Cross-Border Cooperation. That's also on page 6. But more interesting, just above the nameplate, is the president saying poll results reflect will of Nigerians. And that was said by Buhari. And UK, Peter Macron, IBB, Hill, Tinubu, Shatima. I understand the hailing. I understand people congratulating you. You might even congratulate your, competition. It's a show of strength. You might congratulate someone even though you're not fully satisfied with the person's emergence. But then the fact that the president has said that the poll results reflects the will of Nigerians. I don't know if he should have said that at this point.
Yes,
He
considering
could. Yes,
the
considering the
agitations.
sensitivity of the Nigerian situation right now. There are several people who were still on the streets yesterday protesting one thing or the other about the polls. Several people, like I keep reiterating, that several people were disenfranchised. Several people were attacked. We saw one, the lady. That's
Yes,
an
that was
obvious
stabbed,
description
yes.
of that. We also saw ballot box snatching. We saw ballot box burnt. And you are saying that the results from such,
An election.
reflects the will of the people. I really don't understand where these people are standing. I don't know from what standpoint they're seeing things, but our president should have, I think,
Just
he should have been
congratulate and move
different.
on.
Exactly. Thank you.
Just
I
congratulate
mean,
and
it's
move on.
very important for the president to congratulate. Whether it's the emergence was from, it's very important he does that as the president. But then the statement, I really don't agree with.
Yes, and it takes me back to the question about, hearing loud and clear. My question is, what was the president told?
Exactly.
What picture was painted to him? And so sometimes you don't want to blame these people because there's so much gatekeeping of information around them. I have worked with some not really worked with, let me not put it that way, but I have covered some politicians, one or two governors and, the House of Assembly. And what I noticed is that there are several levels of gatekeeping, such that if you say a man is coming at the gate, before he gets to the governor, hey, or man, one of the four, so he takes that and runs with it as the true picture, not knowing that there is a fuller sentence. So it happens like that with people like this. So, but I feel that sometimes you need to read the room. You need to feel the pulse and temperature of the people before you make certain. This is a conclusive statement, and that's unfair to the many persons who are aggrieved, many persons who almost lost their lives, because of the election. And that's really not fair on the people.
It isn't. When I saw it this morning, I was disturbed as to, but it's not surprising anyway. We've had, several occurrences of this. But then we'll move on from that story to page 5, the news on page 5, Tinubu's victory excites capital market. Stockbrokers set agenda.
Yes, well, that's expecting himself. Tinubu is outed as an astute economist, someone who understands the metrics and understands the dynamics of the economy. And, there's been during his campaign, there have been some pointers as to what he did in Lagos with the economy turning the city around. I'm sure that's why the capital market is excited, because relying on antecedent, and of course, very visible antecedent, we must say, the stock market will, of course, react. It does react to every declaration, and it will be interesting to see if that will be sustained, if Asiwaju can ensure that the confidence reposed in him in terms of the economy is rewarded by good performance. Well, I think that's all on the Nation newspaper.
Yes, apart from the obvious picture where he's lifting his certificate of return in excitement as well.
Of course, he has to be excited.
He's the president.
He's president-elect, yes. He has to be excited.
All right, that's all this morning on the Nation newspaper.
All right, so let's move on to the Daily Trust. The Daily Trust newspaper is where we're at this morning, and the banner headline says, Presidential poll, Atiku Obi head to court as Tinubu pledges fairness. Atiku Obi head to court as Tinubu pledges fairness. NNPP demands cancellation. Asiwaju visits Buhari in Daura. UK Prime Minister Osinbajo, IBB, ACF congratulate President-elect. All of that on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper.
Yes, and I think one of the on Asiwaju visiting Buhari in Daura. Although, let me start with the NNPP demanding cancellation. I don't think that is quite possible anymore. Then, on Asiwaju's visit to Buhari in Daura, I think that's also to say thank you for, I'm talking about Asiwaju's position now.
Yes.
Thank you for the free and fair elections, atmosphere, that you gave us to run the elections. And, congratulations to us. We emerged again as the APC. And to receive some last-minute advice, for what I put it.
Well, there'll be more meetings. There'll be more meetings eventually. Very quickly, because of our time, 32 states may witness floods this year, coming from NISA. On page 37, Lagos police warn against fake security alerts. It's on page 5. Farmers lament as irrigation activities grounded. Page 26, 28 of the newspaper. And below the story there, that's a very disturbing story.
Extremely.
Court remands reps leader Duguwa over murder, arson. Police detain Kano NNPP rep-elect over firearm possession. Remember the incident where Musa Kwanzo was coming to campaign and his supporters were attacked, their vehicles burned, and all of that. This is the aftermath that some persons being picked up, including a sitting lawmaker and a lawmaker-elect. We'll get to see how the police handles that in the coming days. But below the nameplate, Senator faults Lawan's claims on e-results transmission. Page 17 is where you find that story. Nigeria's oil production rig count rose in January, OPEC. And on page 30 of the Daily Trust newspaper, 4 salient points to Tinubu's victory. Before we leave the Daily Trust, let's remember that 11 schoolgirls of FGC Benin 5 days in captivity and 1 student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, has now spent 601 days in captivity. Well, that's all on the Daily Trust, and we talk very quickly.
Right,
take us through
quickly
the
running
Guardian.
through the Guardian. The headline says Tinubu extends olive branch, invites youths to rescue Nigeria. Yaga Africa contradicts INEC on Rivers Imo resorts. We've lost confidence in INEC, Situation Room declares. Protesters storm Abuja Unity Fountain. Niger demand fresh election. Buhari, losers should take their grievances to court, not streets. APC sets up committee to meet aggrieved presidential candidates. Your attributes needed at this time. Osinbajo congratulates Tinubu. Obi breaks silence, promises to address Nigerians. Dati vows to use legal means to reclaim mandate. Tackles Lawan for trying to rewrite Electoral Act. Some interesting writers are still, talking about the grievances, about the election and the obvious congratulatory messages as well.
Yes.
But below the newspaper, the bottom strip, TUC deplores presidential poll result as NLC greets elected Labour Party lawmakers. That's on page 4. Akpoti Uduaghan, PDP rejects Kogi Kebbi senatorial results. That's also on page 29. And just below the nameplate, INEC dashed hopes of Nigerians, Christian Coalition alleges. That's a very good way of, talking about how the polls went. Our hopes were dashed in INEC. Tinubu tasked on APC overhaul inclusive administration. That's on page 4. Election results collated in people's homes. Labour Party chieftain alleges. Well, that's an allegation.
Very serious
strong one.
that we should really look into, we should look into it.
Yes. And the last story on the Guardian newspaper, Daguwa others remanded for alleged culpable homicide. And that's on page 29. And that brings us to a very interesting depiction of protesters, and says Citizens Unite for Democracy, CUFD, in a peaceful walk against irregularities in the 2023 general elections in Abuja yesterday.
Yes, you could see those pictures coming out from Abuja.
Yeah.
Some sort of protest against.
And just
the
above
result.
that picture, we have the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, presenting certificate of return to the president-elect Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and his wife is just beside him.
Oh, well, that's where we end the newspaper review segment of the show this morning. We now move over to have our guests, but that will be after this break to talk about some issues emerging and some issues arising from the aftermath of the declaration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu as the president-elect of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
affected, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever is pounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders are fired. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened, we have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world. Brought to you as the break and recapped every hour for your update.
You must never forget the sacrifices of the heroes of Nigeria's democracy.
Produced and brought to you in a unique way never before seen.
Western Spring.
Western Spring.
And Western Spring Television. Television is coming home in your color and culture.
Turn it up! It's the Wild Wild West, and Western Spring Television is pulling out all the stops to make sure that you don't miss out on every of the fun and happenings around you. Yup, we've got you covered because your girls got all the juiciest tidbits and entertainment news from around the world. Cross over to the chocolatey side of entertainment. Join me, Chocolate Cassie, on Eccentric as we take you into every bit of the juiciest news, fashion, music, movie updates, and other trending conversations. Together on the show, we'll get personal with your favorite celebrities via phone call, Zoom, or even live here in the studio. Eccentric will be shown on your TV screen on Western Spring Television, channel 190, only on StarTimes.
According to the words of Michael Forbes, one who never asks questions either knows everything or nothing. Watch me as I ask the questions you think no one wants to answer. Even questions it appears no one has got the guts to ask. My name is Femi Adefila, and I've got the gut. Let's ask the pertinent questions and watch as we get answers.
All right, welcome back to the show, Morning Spring on Western Spring Television, where we bring it to you as it is, where it drops, when it drops. And that's what we do for you here on the show. This morning, we're looking at the aftermath of the declaration of the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as winner of the February 25th election and, of course, president-elect right here in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And this morning, we're joined in the studio first by the state coordinator of the Atiku Support Organization for Osun State, Mr. Funsho Babarinde. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
It was a pleasure coming out.
All right, so let's get straight to it. The news of the declaration, before we get to the pre-declaration, happenings, how was it received in the Atiku camp?
Because of what happened through the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, some of these things are not unexpected. That's a fact, because if you are all in the news on Saturday, we saw a lot of things happening across the country, and some of those things are not things that does not happen on elections anyway. But what took some of us by, will I say, surprise, was for the fact that the INEC had its guidelines and its rules, and some of them were not really as expected. You understand? We've had some split elections in Ondo, in Osun, and we expect that should be a test case for the general election that came up last Saturday. But as it was, some of those things they themselves didn't comply with some of the things they told us that is going to happen. That is the area where there are issues. You understand? But on the surface, the only things that I personally felt happened over the weekend that is a bit good for us was for the fact that I think the violence tendencies came down a little bit, probably because of the cash crunch or whatever might have happened. But the real deal, which is the transmission of the result and the conduct of that election, was not to me, satisfactory.
Oh, okay. So we'll get back to that. But your party, the PDP, and others refused to sign the election sheet in Abuja yesterday.
And because they found a lot of discrepancies.
So tell me what your position is for the Atiku Support Organization on the final result of the election.
Well, in democracy, you have after election, there are still some other steps that could be taken to right the wrongs, and that's what the Presidential Campaign Committee are trying to do now. You understand? The fact still remains that every polling unit has a hard copy of the results, and by now, I think those things will be coming in for proper compilation, so that where there are discrepancies, it could be pointed out to the electoral body, and I think you have every right to go to court to seek redress if you feel you have been surcharged, and that's what the President Campaign Committee is trying to do now. If you noticed on Sunday or Monday, the agents for PDP was trying to, at a point, stop the INEC chairman from continuing, because he felt what they promised was not what he was delivering at that particular point. I said, look, you said this, that, and but at the end of the day, you are not doing what you told us is going to happen. So why continue what you are doing? It only caused some issues, but after some interventions, I think he decided to, instead of creating further, he had to work out, and some other people like that, the Labour Party and some other political parties, decided to walk out of the coalition center to allow INEC to continue what they're doing. And I think, for me, that is, they have registered the grievances against the process of what we are experiencing at that particular point. And the next step is to collate all these things and put it in black and white for those who can really interpret the laws and the guidelines to tell us, look, what they have done is right or what they have done is wrong. And I saw it as deepening our democracy, not flowing along with what has happened. It's about, look, there are steps that are supposed to be taken and they're not taken in the right. We felt they are not taken in the right direction, and we still have an opportunity of righting those wrongs. So I think there's nothing wrong in whatever we are trying to do now towards that particular election.
All right, I think we should ask that what exactly is the PDP's grievance with the way INEC, handled the whole situation from the elections to the collation and then the eventual announcement of the winner?
Well, one of the real problem with that last Saturday election was for the fact that, if you will remember at a particular point, some few months back, let me see, I can't really remember precisely, some particular people, I don't want to mention them or a political party now specifically, came up with the idea that we should not use beavers for this particular election. And it became an uproar that, look, it has been assented to already. It's part of the guideline of INEC that we are going to use technology for this election. We all agree to that. But some people, in fact, at a point, I think some people went to court to stop INEC from using, but the chairman stood his ground. The chairman of INEC, Mahmoud Yakub, stood his ground that, look, we are going to use technology for this particular election. And few hours into the counting, after the election stops 2:30 p.m., and we expect that, in fact, some of my friends are called, as I said, look, nobody should ask me questions about results. All you need to do is just go into the portal, IREV, or where they, as soon as people finishes the election at the polling unit, you bring it up into the portal and everybody can access it there, so that every party member, every concerned individual can just look at what's the hard copy and go into the portal and look at what was uploaded. If it tallies, then you are good. You understand? But along the line, that stopped. What happened?
Well, okay, so we'll get to that now, but very quickly, we are now joined live on the line by a member of the Presidential Campaign Council of the All Progressives Congress, Mr. Ahmed Mustafa. Thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me here. Good morning.
All right, good to have you on the show again. Well, let me ask you now. You are the party who has been declared the winner of the presidential election. What is the mood within your camp, within the PCC there?
Absolute relief. If you consider the amount of work that was put into this, but then we realize there's a lot of work to be done, and so the celebrations are slightly muted because you don't want to appear to be gloating, because this is not, there's no victor or vanquish in this. This is not war, it's simply politics. And at the end of the day, we're all looking forward to a better Nigeria. So there's a lot of work to be done, and we've celebrated in the modest of ways, and then we're going ahead with the job of nation building.
Okay, so what do you make of the electoral process itself? Before we get to other questions, what do you make of the process? Do you think that it was the way it should have gone?
Well, no, not 100%. We have to be clear about that. We expected that results will be transmitted electronically. For some reason, INEC was unable to do that. And then they resulted to manual collation of results. And so that, for me, that seemed to be the only sore point, because a lot of money was devoted to INEC for this particular purpose. And so it's a bit, I don't know how I feel that results were not transmitted electronically, but on a scale of 1 to 10, when it comes to election conduct, I think I'll give INEC a 7.
Okay, so now let's look at the performances of the parties. We're in the studio with Mr. Funsho Babarinde, who is the state coordinator of the Atiku Support Organization here in Osun State. Are you satisfied, Mr. Babarinde, with your party's performance in the last election? We'll put up the graphics for you to see shortly, to see how many states, 12 between the three of them, and Kwakwanso taking the other one there. Now, were you satisfied, or do you think that's the true result?
Well, to a large extent, because we had our issues, and those issues played out. Truth must be told, we had our issues. If you look at that result, You could have imagined if Anobi is still in PDP, you would have imagined if your caucus is still in PDP, and if you sum all this thing up together, you know that would have been a landslide. You understand? But like I said, there are crisis management issues, which might have cost us this election. No doubt about that. You understand? And like I said, but for us, it has been a long journey. It has been torturous, but at the end of the day, God wins. The Nigerians win.
All right. So right on the screen there is the graphics of the distribution of votes and how the election went. Did you think that your party could have taken more states than this 12?
Well, you know, traditionally the Southeast and South-South are supposed to be part of the base of People's Democratic Party, but we have the G5 crisis. We have Obi that left to go and join Labour and become their candidate. We have a caucus who was with us too and left to become the candidate of NMPP. You understand? When you look at that those votes gathered, even only Kano will have changed. You understand the tide, or probably when you look at the votes that came from the G5. But I was telling somebody that look, politics is give and take. It's what you put on the table that people will deal with. You understand? And probably there are some things that are supposed to be done that are left undone, and AI is the result. You understand? For anything you do, there's always consequences, whether good or bad. You understand? And like I said earlier on, election has been conducted. A winner has been declared. Congratulations to my friend.
All right, let me get to, before my colleague comes, let me get to Mr. Mustafa. So let me get to Mr. Mustafa now. So Mustafa, what happened in Lagos State? I mean, the city boy lost his city to the Labour Party. What went wrong for the APC in Lagos?
I don't think anything went wrong. At the end of the day, you have to understand that Nigerians have a right to vote whichever candidate they decide to vote, and that's what happened in Lagos. That's democracy at play, and this shows the maturity of the Lagos voters, and by extension, the Nigerian electorate. That you come from a particular state does not necessarily guarantee you victory in that state, and that's where we are going to with our democracy. And where else to better start this than Lagos? Lagos has always been a pioneer for development in Nigeria. It will continue to be that. Democratically, it has also laid a precedent that as a presidential candidate, you most definitely can't lose your home state and still become president. It shows two things for Bola Ahmed Tinubu: its national acceptability, and then the fact that this is a true Democrat. Those are the two takeaways that I have from it. I think it's a huge positive for Nigeria and for the APC.
All right, but do you not think that's a very strong statement made by the Lagosians, the residents of Lagos, if to him? Do you think that it does not have a strong statement?
When you say from that region, Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a Yoruba man. If you take an entire census of the election in the Southwest, he was by far the most popular candidate in the Southwest. And then he gave the candidate of the PDP, who is also a Northerner, a good run for his money in the North. So this shows that this is one man who is a completely destabilized Nigerian, accepted by all. If he had won Lagos by a very large margin, he had lost the election, the story would have been completely different. So this is a huge positive, like I said, for Nigeria. And of course, it's a stamp of how acceptable Bola Ahmed Tinubu is in Nigeria. He went ahead and won in certain states that we never expected him to win. He's not Hausa, but the APC won in Kebbi. We gave the PDP a run for their money in Sokoto. Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not Hausa. As far as speaking, the win in Rivers State, and he's not from that region as well. So if you can lose at home, you can win away. It's well and truly allowed.
Well, before the election, Mr. Mustafa, some members of your presidential campaign council, and indeed members of the APC, had said that even if there was any state that the Asiwaju would not win. It wouldn't be Lagos, you know, and he was very categorical. That was his own state, and he has never lost it. He's not going to lose it. I know you say it's good for democracy. I know you say it's a stepping stone to see how diverse our democracy is becoming. But now the question is, other candidates won in their home states, right? Now, what is this potential for? What does it portend for the APC in Lagos, particularly ahead of the governorship election, if Asiwaju lost in that state?
Asiwaju will not be on the ballot for the Buba election. The sentiment that was right in Lagos will not be the same when it comes to the Buba elections. Without sounding, for fear of being tagged a by God, there's certain things that I would like to explain. But let me just do my best to explain it. Now, there was a huge religious sentiment against the APC. You know, there was a lot of kick against the Muslim ticket, which I believe will not be the case when it comes to the Buba election.
Okay.
The particular ethnic group had a lot of interest. Right now, two Lagosians, I don't think their interest will be so vested. You know, they no longer have a dog in the race. So it most likely.
Mr. Mustafa, you seem to be fading away. We seem to be losing connection with you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, so I was saying that additionally, if you look at the Buba elections in Lagos and the presidential election in Lagos, the results, if you run your analysis, Lagos has never been a stronghold of the APC when it comes to presidential elections. President Muhammadu Buhari barely won in Lagos on his two elections. Goodluck Jonathan won the 2011 elections in Lagos. So it's not the first time that opposition will be winning Lagos in the presidential election, and those elections had zero bearing on the gubernatorial elections. For instance, in 2019, the APC won Lagos with about 200,000 votes, which was deemed by some and many as a poor showing for the APC. But 2 weeks down the line, the APC won the gubernatorial elections with over 500,000 votes. I expect the same trend to be the case here by 11th of March 2023.
All right, before we come back to the speech of Asiwaju to examine some of the things he said, now let's come here to Osun State, Mr. Babarinde now. Against what it seems to be like projections, your party carries the day, albeit by not so very large a margin. What changed, what tilted the tide of Osun State towards the PDP?
How do I put it? One, we have a sitting governor in person of Senator Adeleke, who I could say within the first less than 100 days in office, has been able to do some things that are touching on the lives of Osun people. How do I mean? Some of the few things that has happened was that, one, when he came, he said, okay, I promised I'm going to pay the arrears of what the previous government has paid as half salary. I will look into it and say how I'll pay. That is going on. He looked and said, look, one of the basic, you see, citizens have some basic things that they need. The moment you provide it, you are good with them. It's not about that's a politician, it's not about that's a civil servant. But there are some basic things. Water is a very basic. And it felt okay. If the water corporation is not doing the needful to put water in everybody's home, can we, at every ward, every political ward, have a place where people can just walk a distance and go and fetch water? Water is very basic. You need water almost every day, around the clock, in the night, in the morning, you understand. They did that, 1 per ward. Get a borehole, motorize and let people go there and fetch water. That touches more on the citizenry. You said, okay, look, we have a lot of roads. Instead of saying, okay, let the community go and pick which of the roads in your particular community do you really need the government attention. Some few kilometers, let the government go and handle it. That is ongoing too. Some of these things are things that touches the people. And when you do things that touches the people, there's nothing I'm going to tell them. We didn't expect it anyway. Our projection was off mark too. when the results start coming in, it only shows that the people has the power in case of Osun, and the governor is doing the needful. You understand? These are the things that you understand change the tide. Well, the other thing I could add politically was for the fact that they gave him a mandate last year, and the APC challenged the results in the court of law, and the tribunal said plus or minus they are overvoting and things like that, and that if after all deduction and subtraction, this person wins, this person loses. And I think an average justice season went a bit hysterical that, look, wow, we gave somebody a vote and you're telling us that that vote does no longer count, and they want to make a statement that, look, we sincerely voted for this party and these people, not a fluke. You understand? So I think those are the small issues of what transpired, and it only shows that Osun people for now are comfortable with People's Democratic Party.
Will that change in the nearest future? Because you said for now.
Yeah, because the governor is doing what they expect him to be doing. The moment you don't do, you see, it's not rocket science. You understand? If somebody comes here now and tells us that, look, okay, I'm giving everybody free lunch and free dinner, and the next 1 week, one of the probably lunch or dinner is missing. Between 2-3 days, I was like, what is your guy trying to do? But you promise us this. When you tell people you are going to do something and you are following it up, people will go to any extent to abide with whatever you understand. But the moment you decide to become irresponsible, the power is in their hand.
Okay, Mr. Mustapha, did the APC lose Osun State to the PDP because of the power of incumbency?
I believe so largely. And I think some sentiments and certain narratives were driven in Osun to help in achieving that. But not all politics, it all is fair in love and war. So I give the PDP kudos for how well they did in the presidential elections in Osun. We cannot deny that people were too spoke in the presidential elections, and it was clear where they tried to swing their vote. And I think.
Oh, you seem to be fading away again, Mr. Mustapha.
Can you hear me? Sir?
Yes, we can hear you now clearly.
Okay, so I'm saying that I give kudos to the PDP for how well they did in Osun. Cannot deny the fact that I was surprised by the results, but we take it in good faith. At the end of the day, the APC, the Democratic Party, would examine the results and see if there are irregularities anywhere. If there are not, we'll accept it. So I must say that the PDP Osun did excellent and superb politics. They drove certain sentiments and certain narratives in the state, and it worked in their favor. And that's it's fair enough, you know. All is fair in love and war, and this is one of such. So kudos to them. I cannot deny the fact that I was surprised by the outcome of elections in Osun. But then again, this goes to solidify the credibility of the entire electoral process.
All right, Mr. Mustapha, do you mind sharing with us what the sentiments or narratives that the PDP, drove in Osun are?
Well, I mean, I reside in Osun. One of the narratives we heard on the street was the fact that if Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu and the APC presidential candidate wins the elections, then he would muscle Governor Ademola Adeleke out of power. And they didn't explain to the electorate that this was a function of court and evidence provided in court to determine who wins. I do not think that if Atiku Abubakar of the PDP had emerged president-elect, he would have in any way interrupted or interfered with the court process. I don't think that anybody present has those powers to do that. But our electorate sometimes are not as enlightened as they should be about these matters. And so in protecting the PDP went to town with such narratives, and it's fair, it's okay. You take it off the chin and then you move on. We did win a PDP state in the Southwest. If you take Oyo, for instance, so it doesn't. Are we then? If you say that the people of Osun made a statement with their votes in the presidential election, are we then to say that the Oyo State PDP is in trouble coming on the 11th of March? I don't think so. I think that the presidential elections and the gubernatorial elections most oftentimes have no the results have no correlation whatsoever, because the sentiments that drive people to vote are completely different. And we cannot deny the fact that our people still vote largely based on sentiments and emotion.
All right, so it's not just the presidential elections that held on the 25th. We'll come to that. But after the declaration, and even before the declaration of Asiwaju Tinubu as president-elect, a lot of persons have been contesting the credibility of that process. The European Union talking about transparency, and some reports of voter suppression and oppression, and a lot of other irregularities, the failure to upload the result. Do you have confidence in the electoral process and the eventual result? I know it favors your party, but from your standpoint as a concerned Nigerian, are you comfortable with all of the things that have happened during the election leading up to the declaration?
Absolutely. Someone in your position would cherry pick when it comes to election credibility. So the opposition, the PDP won in Osun, elections were fair. The Labour Party won in Lagos, and that's fair. You know, the Labour Party won in Zamfara, won in Nasarawa. That's fair. But if the APC wins in Oyo State, then there are issues. I think that we need to come to a point where we realize that elections are a game of numbers. And like Mr. Babajide, who is a highly respected person who I know personally has said, the PDP went into the election divided in three. They made it an easy one for the APC. They would have given us a huge fight if they had their house united. And I like the fact that he owned up to that part, because these are the telling issues in these elections. It's not about whether elections were rigged or not. No, you can't tell me that. The APC won 12 states, the PDP won 12 states, the Labour Party won 12 states. The Labour Party has no single governor, not a senator, not a House of Rep member, not the local government chairman, and somehow they won 12 states in this country. It has never happened in the history of our democracy. Then you still question the credibility of such elections. An election where Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu lost in Lagos, where Governor Nasir El-Rufai lost in Kaduna, where sitting governors of the PDP lost their senatorial bid. No, but you have to be comical to call this election rigged. I don't know how they came to that conclusion, because elections are never, I must say categorically, never 100% perfect. Even American elections, America has the most developed democracy in the world. We saw what the Trump supporters and his base made of the American elections when the elections were. The President Trump actually initially came out and said, stop the count. And he kept claiming the elections were rigged in America. At the end of the day, there was nothing but flames of smoke without flames. That's exactly what the situation is in Nigeria. Elections have been won and lost. If you have grievances, like the APC did in Osun, please approach the...
Also spoken about the division within your party. Did you envisage it, having a very huge effect, let me put it like that, on the election results?
I won't be fair if I didn't. If I said we don't, we actually saw these things coming and we tried mitigating it, because when brothers fight to death, the outsider inherits their lot, you understand, and it's an internal issue that has affected us. And apart from that, like Riley said, where we even won, the votes are not too, you understand, they're marginal. The winners is very, very marginal. But one thing that we had issues with in this election was for the fact that there's an abuse of process, and contesting it will be good for the future of Nigeria and its democracy.
What are those things that constitute abuse for you of the process?
When you have a guideline and you are not following it, is it an abuse? The INEC crept their own process. When we use that language, I'm sorry.
You can't use that language.
The INEC abuse their own process. That is clear. And the court will have its own day in saying, yes, what they have done is right or wrong. You understand? Because if those processes, for us, that's where the issues are. you understand that, okay, if you're supposed to do something in one way and you are no longer doing it that way, there'll be suspicion. You understand the suspicion that, look, something has gone wrong. Most of that, few months earlier, some people, a particular political party kicked against using technology for this process. And eventually what played out, the script that played out shows that something is amiss. And instead of going violent, I think the best thing to do is to take all these issues, like my friend rightly said, to the court and said, okay, this is what we have discovered went wrong. You understand? Let's see, so that at least in the future, so that things like that will not play out again. It is against PDP or Labour or other parties today. Tomorrow it could be against another political party in the future. So then let's just put the things in the right perspective. Yes, we had our issues. The election played out the way it played out. You understand, but the fact still remains that we felt it could have been better and our chances could have been more brighter and probably would have won this election if that process was technology driven, which INEC didn't comply.
All right. Mr. Mustafa, are you still with us?
Yes, can I quickly respond to
Yes, I was going to ask if you believe that, or if you agree with him that the electoral process was abused.
Yes, not abused. I think there were issues with INEC, and INEC has to, rightfully, like he said, have its day in court and explain why results were not uploaded real time. I completely agree with that. I'm a young person, so I'm for improvement in our electoral process, and we cannot deny that uploading results electronically would have been a huge improvement in our nascent democracy. And we must call issues as they are, because at the end of the day, we're all looking for a better country. And I like Mr. Babaride's point of view. If you have issues with the electoral process, please approach the courts. And it's as simple as that. But I must say that no party, to my own knowledge, went to court to challenge the use of technology. The Electoral Act was signed by a majority house led by the APC. So there is no way. I don't know what political party, because he didn't mention them, but I can say categorically that the APC was not opposed to the use of technology, because we had majority senators and House of Rep members. If we wanted to kick against the use of technology, we would have done that to kill that bill even before it became law. And we didn't do that. So at no point did the APC go to court to go and challenge the use of BVAS or transmission of results electronically. Just so that we are clear. I don't know if he has details about any other, there are about 18 or 19 political parties contesting the election. I just need to be clear about the position of my own party regarding the use of BVAS and electronic transmission of results. We had no issues with it whatsoever.
All right, do you also think that if there was nothing like this abuse of the electoral process, do you think that this result may have been swayed in another's favor apart from your own presidential candidate?
Absolutely not. I don't believe that, because at the end of the day, with or without technology, people will still vote the way they want to vote. And political parties are allowed to have party agents in all of the 126,000 polling units in this country. Those polling agents are supposed to sign election results. When those results move from polling units to the ward levels, agents at the ward level will also sign those results before it is transmitted to the local government level, before it's transmitted to the state level, then before being transmitted to the National Collation Center in Abuja. So there's a process. If you have any issues, it should have been addressed at those levels. And even if you address it at those levels, let's say for some reason you were able to address it at those levels, you are still allowed to approach court with evidence of election irregularities. So I do not think that elections would have swung any other way, because the key factor to why the PDP lost the election, which nobody can deny, is the fact that it went into this election fractured. That's the major reason. Like he said, the APC, for instance, had over 700,000 votes in Kano, for instance, and the NNPP, which is a breakaway of the PDP, had over 1 million votes. If you put that together with what the PDP had in Kano, the PDP would have been looking at, say, maybe about 1.2, 1.3 million votes. And across the country like that, if you take a look at what happened in Lagos, a large base of those of the PDP voters in Lagos decided to vote for the Labour Party. This is the worst showing of the PDP in Lagos. The PDP didn't secure 25% of the votes cast in Lagos. But a big of the PDP, which is the Labour Party, won Lagos. So these are the reasons why the PDP lost that election. And if you want to tie it to any other thing, we're just making a caricature of the entire process. Let's tell ourselves what the truth is. I don't think the APC will have stood a chance of winning Oyo State if the governor of Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde, was in tandem with the party and its candidate. These are the issues. I don't think the APC will have won Rivers if Governor Wike was actively campaigning and working for his party to emerge winners of the election in Rivers. These are the issue. There's no other way around it.
All right. Before we take a listen to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's acceptance speech, and before we talk about the legislative elections in Osun State here, and now, what do you think should be the position of Nigerians on this? There's so much heat in the polity, Mr. Mustafa, so much rhetoric, some very, very scary and ominous statements made by political players and some even non-political players. What is your charge to Nigerians at this very delicate moment?
I think the Nigerians need to embrace peace. There is a process. And they should take a cue from what the APC has always done. At every point in time when the APC has lost elections and they have felt aggrieved, there are countless examples in Edo State, in Osun here, in Ekiti, across the country. Every time when the APC has felt aggrieved by election results, we approached the courts and justified our claims. The courts have sided with us most often than not because we've been able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the process was flawed. If the PDP or any other political party believe that this process is flawed, so that they have evidence that they can use to prove that in court, then they should confidently approach the courts and prove their case. It's as simple as that. I will charge Nigerians, particularly young Nigerians who are on social media, to silence these drums of war, because it will not pay this country to go, not just Nigeria, but the entire African region, if this country is destabilized by some selfish and self-centered characters who will not ultimately be affected by the outcome of crisis in this country.
All right, Mr. Babarindi, we'll take Asiwaju's acceptance speech shortly, but then what is also your charge to the people of the country at the moment?
We don't have any other country. This is our country, and everybody should be on the same page when it comes to the peace. The peace of Nigeria is not negotiable. The unity is not negotiable for me, you understand. And that's why I said initially that in as much as we are not, we are aggrieved about the process that, of this election, we are putting our books and our papers together for a litigation that, look, this process was not the way it was supposed to be, hence the outcome. You understand? And like I said, there's still an opportunity to reject decisions. So all these statements that can cause issues, that can bring Nigeria down, no. Nigeria is too big for us to. We can't afford to have crisis in Nigeria because there's no other place in the sub-region that can even accommodate us if we have issues. So we have to do everything to make sure that we are together, irrespective of our differences. So I will have appealed to people to let's calm down, let's look at this process, and we still have opportunities to redress situations, and with time, I think tempers will go down, and I can only appeal to Nigerians to take it easy. We still have another election next week Saturday, March 11, and that's an opportunity for us to really prove that, look, what happened last election was not the way it's supposed to be. Even for INEC, you understand. I expect that whatever lapses that we are crying about now should be addressed in the next election. which is the governorship and the House of Assembly, where it applies, you understand. So that I'll be able to look at, okay, look, this is what you did now is what you're supposed to do, and you can see the outcome. Let's look at it holistically. That's what I'm saying. Nigerians should take it easy. Those who have voted and felt that their vote does not count should still go there and repeat that same feat, so that people will know that, look, yes, this is what we did, and what you gave us was not what we input into the, you understand. There's an opportunity to do that again. Like I said, like I use Osun as an example. I know Osun people voted for Senator Adebola Adeleke, and APC went to court, like my friend rightly said, and they got what they got in the court. But there's still some other, there's still the appeal, and there's still the Supreme Court there to readdress the issue. Same thing. But Osun said, look, we voted. Now they show us that they voted. Next weekend again, I think we are going to do House of Assembly. I expect that they will still show us that, look, like we have done earlier, we can do it again and again, because this is where we are and this is what we want at this part. So that's all other Nigerians to do. Let them go out there again and prove a point, even to INEC. But INEC should not, whatever happens, that then allow them to do this process. They should do everything within this period of time to make sure that there's an improvement on it, so that we will see that, look, okay, this is not deliberate. Because if it happens again, that means something is wrong somewhere. Something's amiss, and that means there is a deliberate attempt to stifle some political parties.
All right. So would like to join the two other parties, the two political parties now, because we are not a political party. I would like to join the APC, that's Ahmed Mustafa, and of course Mr. Funsho Babarinde, to ask you to please calm down. Let all frayed nerves be calmed. Nigeria is our country. Whatever redress you want to seek, whatever displeasure you want to register, please do that within the ambit of the law. But these two gentlemen are still with us on the show. We'll now just take a listen to the acceptance speech of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and then discuss some of the things that he said.
This is a serious mandate. I hereby accept it. That mandate to serve you, be your servant, and not be your leader. To work with you and make Nigeria a great country. I take this opportunity also again to appeal to my fellow contestants to let us team up together. It is the only nation we have. It is one country that we must build together. We work together to put broken pieces together. We must work for the unity, happiness, and harmony. We must not act like that orchestra that has no direction of a conductor. We and we have elected a conductor named President-elect. Let's collaborate to create a symphony that will make the rhythm of music and prosperity an history for our country. We have what it takes. We have what is needed. Knowledge, creativity, the mind, determination.
All right, Mr. Mustafa, some musical anecdote and analogy there by the president-elect, creating a picture, a very grim picture when you have an orchestra without a conductor. Now, but what is your takeaway from Asiwaju's acceptance speech before we come back to Osun?
Well, I think that acceptance speech was very powerful. It spoke about the need for national unity and the need to mend the cracks that are obvious for all to see in this country. I don't think this country has ever been as divided along ethnic and religious lines and has ever been at this point. So we need to all come together to salvage what is left of this country and remind ourselves constantly that we have no other nation, like Mr. Babangida said, but Nigeria. In that the president is only a conductor. He is not the orchestra. There has to be one man leading. He can only be one man. So this is a government of national unity that will work for the harmony of all Nigerians, clarity of all Nigerians across board, without leaving anybody behind. He speaks all the things that Asiwaju has said in his campaign, and he also reiterated those promises that no Nigerian will be left behind. You know, that was my major takeaway. A lot of specifics, but this was what I was able to hold on to as the source of the speech. That this country needs to come together. It reminds me of the speech that was given by the head of state, Yakubu Gowon, immediately after the Civil War, when Nigeria also needed to heal.
All right, Mr. Babangida, like Mr. Mustafa said, Nigeria has never been this fragmented. You know, going into the election, it was very obvious that we were really divided, you know, along different lines, socio-economic, socio-cultural, and socio-political lines. The cracks were there for all to see. Do you see Asiwaju Tinubu mending fences and taping the cracks to put us together as a one entity?
Well, it's neither here nor there. Reason being that we politicians, if I may use that language, as a way of coining our words when we want to seek sentiments, you understand. And if you remember clearly, some 8 years ago, or about 8 years ago, the day President Muhammadu Buhari was reading the acceptance speech, there's one particular sentence: "I'm for nobody, I'm for everybody," but we all know what happened eventually. We are not here this morning to castigate anybody. I don't do personalities. I do process and policies and stuff like that. We can only bank on what we heard now, and the countdown has started. Congratulations to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Congratulations to Team BAT. But like I said, the countdown has started. We will take him for his words. We will look at his actions preliminarily. Bumper to bumper, we'll be following him like we did for Buhari too.
Is this alluding to the fact that you've considered defeat already?
No, it does not. It does not. Like what I said, he is the president-elect, and even if we are going to go through the court process, he will still be the president. He will be sworn in, and actions needed to be taken, pending the time that the litigation will be determined. You understand? And this is our country. Whatever he's going to do within that period, whether it's going to continue or something going to happen otherwise, we still have to make sure that the right thing, like he rightly said, is being done. We have to really key into whatever he's telling us now that he's going to do. You understand? He has spoken brilliantly well, but like I said, there's a trust. There's a breach of trust between Nigerians and leadership in this country over the past years. You understand? We only hear these things, and at the end of the day, it doesn't happen the way you understand it's meant to happen. The last time they say he's a warlord, Buhari is a war clinical, you go to Sambisa, will relocate and blah blah blah. And at the end of the day, we'll see where we are today. Yeah. There be so for me, for every government, for the fact that we are still here as a Nigerian, I still give it to for anybody to keep this country together, no matter how decisive situations are. we should still give it the leadership a kudos in that aspect. But the areas where I have issues, like I said, Nigerians does not ask for too much. Nigerians want to wake up in the morning, have electricity to do their things in their house, have a good transportation system, have a good road to ply. You understand? Have strong decisions that will make. Something happened in this election that people has not started talking about, which marvels me. Which future as a nation. I heard that there's one Okada man that took form under Labour Party in Kaduna, and today is a member of a federal House of Rep elect. That's where it should be. Somebody who is nobody could become something. That should be a nation that everybody should work towards. Not a nation where some megalomaniac or some oligarch will just feel these are our freedom where we can do things anyhow. So I just hope, like I said, we'll get a leader that will do things. If the leadership are doing things right, nobody will complain that somebody's from north, someone from east, someone from west. Nobody will care. Nobody will remember that you are not even from one particular section of the country. It was because successively the leaders we have been having has been doing things that has started making people to ask questions. That look, why should you do this? But if things had been done in the right way, the perception will change a lot of narratives. So I just pray that he hits the ground running. We have a lot of debt on our neck without a commensurate infrastructure or what have you on ground. We have a disjointed nation, religious, ethnic, and there should be a way of erasing all the, and it's the action of the government. It is the action of he's the leader. Now, the Nigerian president is so powerful constitutionally that the center is powerful. Nobody's talking about restructuring. Nobody's talking about devolution of power. These are issues that I expect that he looks into. See, yeah, he mentioned one thing in that speech. I didn't do it about the youths. The Labour Party issue has made us realize that the structure now is the people. The people are now the structure. Elections are won on the streets and not in the boardroom. All right, thank you.
Now, let's come back to Osun. Mr. Mustapha, you're still with us. It was a poor showing, a poor outing for your party at the legislative elections. I mean, the 3 senatorial districts, the 9 federal constituencies, the APC did not perform well. What do you think caused this outcome of the election?
Well, there are a plethora of reasons, but I'll just give you the major one because let's not bore ourselves with all of the issues. If you look at the man that Mr. Barinde referred to as the Labour Party candidate who won the House of Reps, as good as that is, it also sets a dangerous precedence because people voted for somebody whose credibility, credentials, plans they didn't question just because it belongs to a party that they want to vote for at the presidential level. Some people just go party A. That's how elections are done. A lot of people have crept into power due to a mob movement, which should not have been the case. Take an example of Lagos, for instance. There was a particular House of Reps that was voted into office in Lagos. It was after he had won the election that people who voted for the candidate were asking who the candidate was. And it's good to say, oh, the new party has come into power, a new percent of people are coming into power, but who are these new set of people? Are we voting in charlatans into power because we're angry with the powers that be? Because the funny part is that the wealth of a day can make you forget the poverty of 1,000 years. So there's no guarantee that voting in an Okada man will change anything for the people of Kaduna. And I wish them well, I hope they are right, but I also hope that they don't make a decision blindly. Coming to Osun, it's exactly the same thing that transpired. So people went to the polls with a sentiment of the ruling party in Osun that clearly at the polls, very, 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 very clearly. Even at the Southeast, it's exactly the same thing. The Labour Party majorly stepped away all of the House of Reps and House of Senate seats in that area. So it's the same thing. The same thing when people go to the polls with, oh, I'm voting Mr. Barinde and he's a member of WMP. So I'm voting WMP at the presidential level, at the Senate level, and also at the House of Reps. People don't question this thing. And that, for me, that was the major reason why the APC had a very poor showing in Osun. That's what party issues, which are not able to discuss here. That was very, very key.
All right. So I also want to ask you, by speaking about the Kaduna issue, are you by any means talking about the quality of representation that has now been voted in by the people of Osun State?
No. By no means. I'm just citing that as an example.
All right.
That people, it happened with the APC in 2015. There are a lot of people who came into the House of Reps that I wasn't particularly pleased with. The Buhari tsunami swept in a lot of characters into the House of Reps in 2015 because the majority of northern Nigeria were. And that's what happened in this exact instance. It doesn't guarantee poor representation, neither does it guarantee excellent representation. It's a risk that you've taken without investigating who your reps and senators. And it's key that we know this, that the senators and the House of Rep members closer to you than who the president is. So you should be more invested in who is your House of Rep member president is.
Now, was the PDP able to clear the legislative seat in Osun State to a large extent?
Well, let me first of all respond to what he said about the Okada man. My friend should know that number one, there are basic requirements for you to contest for an election. Be that it may, I know a sizable number of the Okada riders are graduates. That's the bitter truth. If you sample,
please let's be clear. I have nothing against the Okada rider, and I'm not questioning his credentials.
Yeah, he has made that clear.
What I will advocate will have been that every political party should try as much as possible to have a leadership training process, a leadership training institute, sort of, so that if you are bringing in anybody into the after the political party should be a vehicle that should prepare will be candidates for the task ahead. You understand? Because being a graduate does not even guarantee that you are going to be a good legislature at the end of the day if you don't have the requisite training of what you are proposed to do. You understand? Yeah. Osun, yes. Majority of those that were fielded in the last National Assembly election are people that were there during the previous election in 2019, and there are party men who has the grasp of the grassroots, if I may use that language. They have been they ran, some of them ran for this same election last time, and they were around all through to this moment. And some of them are returning. We have about four of them who are present member of National Assembly. So what I'm saying in essence is, out of the 12, the 3 senators and NREP, probably by just about 1 or 2. Even those ones has run under other political parties in the past as candidates. So there is not really a new person, so to say, somebody there's no rookie among them. Coupled with the fact that, like I said earlier on, there are a lot of sentiments. Those sentiments are right. They're right in the sense that it meets the needs of the people. If I may use that if I may put the narratives that way, you understand? Somebody made a promise on behalf of PDP as an individual who was the Green Biro, who was a Commonwealth, and didn't renege on those promises. And when people trust the leadership, to do things for such leadership becomes very easy. When there's a synergy between the leadership and the people, it's easier to pull through a lot of things. Like I said earlier on, yes, my friend will not deny the fact that in Osun State, at a particular point during the administration of the APC, they were paying some money, half salary, and they promised then that when the economy of the state improves, that they will pay back the other one, that is a sacrifice to develop the state. No problem about that. But at a point, they start giving excuses that the economy has not improved for them to pay. And somebody can say, look, don't worry. If I become the governor, I will look into this and I will pay. And then it was like, Ibolo Timaro, where's he going to get money to do it? But eventually, when he got to that seat, he was able to source and say, look, these are money. These are things that people have worked for. Let's look at a way. We are not able to do it at a whole hog because it's voluminous. But let's break it down and help people. People have taken cooperatives. People have taken loans. You understand that there's a need to pay back. And unfortunately, most of these things are tied to their salary. So you imagine the kind of trauma people have gone through when your salary is not coming in 100% at the end of the month. So now that somebody said, okay, let's say we can do plus or minus and start paying this in, and it worked. And those one felt, okay, the best way to reward back this leadership, since we can trust them, is to trust them more. So for me, it's a matter of trust. It's a matter of saying one thing and doing it. And what that tells us as politicians or as people is the fact that when you are promising people things, make sure that you abide to it. Your promise is a debt. Abide by it, and you can be rest assured that they're going to make life easier for you.
All right. So, Mr. Mustafa, as we begin to close now, on 11th of March 2023, there will be 26 seats.
It was a PDP at the presidential level, and why you lost. Practically, the same thing applies to the APC in Osun. There is no denying the fact that the APC in Osun is fractured, and a fractured opposition is an easy opposition to defeat. And these are the issues. So we must face these things squarely. The APC needs to put its house in order, get its acts together. Otherwise, I'm not expecting any miracle on the 11th of March. It's not rocket science. There's no miracle. There's no magic wand that you can wave. If you have a political party and some people decide to stay aloof or actively work against the interests of that political party, there is no way you're going to win. The Holy Book says a house divided against itself will not stand. Exactly what the issue with the PDP is at the federal level is exactly the same issue that is bedeviling the APC in Osun. And the results will not be different unless we do something and do it very quickly.
Okay, so before my colleague comes in, now in light of the National Assembly result, do you see the same voting pattern for the House of Assembly?
No, I've said this and I'll say it again. I've said on this program and I'll say it again, that the elections of 25th of February have very little influence, or they are very poor indicators to what will happen at the gubernatorial and House of Assembly elections. Because at the end of the day, the sentiments that were used to drive people to vote will not work in these instances. I'll give an example. If Osun was conducting an election today, while you might say, "Oh, let's vote for one of our own," is a Yoruba man against voting for a northerner or a southeasterner. These are sentiments that people use. Or let's vote for somebody of our religion. These are sentiments that people use to get votes across all political parties. If we're being fair, this should not be the case in a place like Oyo, where the gubernatorial candidates, both of them are Yorubas, and they are both sons of Oyo State. So those sentiments will not play out. A different set of sentiments will be driving the people. Oh, this person is from a particular part of Oyo, or this person is a particular part of Oyo. These are the things that will be driving people when they go and cast their vote. Some people in Oyo State feel aggrieved that they've not enjoyed power over a long stretch of time. So these are the sentiments that will be driving people to the poll. And different states have different sentiments that are driving them. So I expect that the result at the gubernatorial election will be different.
Oh, well, all right, Mr. Mustafa.
Mr. Mustafa.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Babarinde, quickly before we round this off, what are your expectations towards the March 11 polls here in Osun, especially at the State House of Assembly?
Well, I don't. For me, we are looking at 26. The House of Assembly is very important to us as PDP, because if you have a complete set of honorables, it will help drive all the agenda of the governor, Senator Nuruddin Jackson Ademola Adeleke. And Osun people has built their trust in our party, I expect that they go out all the way again next week Saturday to go and vote for the House of Assembly members, so that the dividends of democracy, which has started well with the governor, can continue, because whatever policy he wants to, there are so many things he wanted to push. He needed a viral and up and doing House of Assembly populated by his political party for him to drive those policies, so that Osun people can get a better deal from this government. As long as we are the party is the majority in the House of Assembly, it allows the governor to push policies and programs that will give the people of Osun more opportunities to live a better life with government patronage. So I expect that people will go out as usual. They've done it at the governorship, they've done it at the National Assembly and presidential. I expect them to do it again for us.
All right.
Next Saturday.
Okay, so we understand that Mr. Mustafa is back. We'll just take the closing remarks. He was trying to make a point before the line went off. Mr. Mustafa, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think I don't agree with Mr. Obari that the governor needs to have majority in the House to govern. These things are very delicate. If he has majority, if he has 26 or 26, at the end of the day, what you then have is that even if he passes a wrong policy, the possibility of the State Assembly challenging the governor becomes a problem. You know, if I don't think an APC House of Assembly to the development of Osun. So, you know, just so that we're clear on these issues, I think we need to learn how to play bipartisan politics, which is what advanced democracies do. If you have a good enough plan, you can reach across the divide and get the buy-in of the opposition to get it done. It puts a one-party state is a very dangerous thing to have. So, on this note, I will appeal to people of Osun to go out on the 11th of March, vote their conscience, to be peaceful about the conduct of the election, because nobody's life is worth losing over the electoral process. This will be my admonition to the people of Osun, and I hope that we have a seamless process, even with INEC transmission of results on the 11th of March, 2023.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed Mustafa, for joining us on the show this morning. Do stay safe and have a lovely one.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Yes. Now, before we go on the show, I'd like to bring you some breaking news coming out from the People's Democratic Party, and that's why we've not let Mr. Babarinde go yet. The This Day newspaper is reporting that former Ekiti Governor Ayodele Fayose has resigned from the PDP. Former Governor of Ekiti State, Fayose, has announced his resignation from the main party, the People's Democratic Party, PDP. Fayose announced his resignation from the PDP yesterday while appearing as a guest on a program on Arise News. Fayose served as governor of Ekiti State from 2003 to 2007 and 2011 to 2015 on PDP's ticket. However, his decision to quit the party appears to be connected with perceived irreconcilable differences in the PDP, which according to him has fractured the party. He said, and let me quote, says, "Let me say this, from today as yesterday, I stay off PDP. In party politics, there are certain facts you must be able to speak. I am 62 and I can't at this age begin lying. When something is wrong with your family, confess." End of quote. Babarinde Ayodele Fayose, a stakeholder in your party, a stalwart, has just left. What are the implications?
Well, for me, that's a good one for him. Honestly, politics is personal for me. And that's a good one. I think I appreciate him for doing that, because he has... I'm sorry to say this. He appeared in the last couple of, not even months, years, not to be on the same page with the leadership of the party. The only area where I have issues with us as individuals, if I'm saying individuals, that's I identify as it's just an upcoming big contested for governorship without even passing through. In politics, in advanced democracy, there's a ladder, there's a leadership ladder that is supposed to pass through, that you understand, councillorship, chairmanship. But he just came, became governor, left as governor. He tried contesting another political party as senator or something, another Labour Party, I think then too. He lost. He came back into the party again, picked up the ticket, did the second term, and today he said he's no longer a member of that party. But that's the party that in history, that's the party that made him whatever he acclaims politically that. So, and unfortunately, he is not the same paid with leadership over the years. And now that he has dropped from the vehicle, because political parties are vehicles, now those who he has held down in Ekiti can breathe. Because as the leader, you see PDP has a funny, I'm sorry to say this, we had a funny law in our party. The governor is the leader of the party. And the chairman is the leader of the party in the local government. No matter how many years we must have spent within the system, those who has the political power are assumed leadership of the party. And so what I'm saying in a sense is that he has been leader of that party for quite a while, and we know what happened to our political party in Ekiti all through. So now that he has left and is no longer there, I think those who he left behind can now pick up the bits and pieces and make the better use.
My colleague asked, the consequences, just in a minute, the consequences for your party now. Do you not think that this...
I don't expect any consequences, because let me quickly say this. During the governorship, we performed woefully in Ekiti. During this last election, if you look at the vote difference, because he is no longer in charge, I think we did better. Now that he's even no more longer in the picture, I think those that he left behind can now have a full confidence of talking to the people that, look, we're in charge now, and not the person that was there before. So I expect the chances of the party to improve more subsequently. All
right, thank you so much for your time on the show. Mr. Funsho Babarinde is the state coordinator of the Atiku Support Organization in Osun State. Thank you for your time on the show this morning.
It's a pleasure being here.
Well, that's where we leave it. Before we go, a quick reminder that former governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, has resigned from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. My name is Emmanuel Ojandigele, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Friday edition of the show.
Yes, and don't forget to stay safe. Be on the safe side of law and have a wonderful and excellent day. I am Temitope Ajijola Oluola. Good morning.
Western Spring Television. Ours it is.
Arrested, affected, sound, found. What do we see? What do we say? Flowing from a spring. A fact A to Z. Check and confirm. Ever expounding current events. Traveling down from the business gist to the globally arising happenings, to the sports news, to the bittersweet infos. Guided transmission. Even diffusion. Vast and fast. Detailed facts are fled. Within seconds, nuggets of words that flew across borders. Stories short and long, wrapped in bundles of words, broken and dissected as it is, except misheard. This is the news as it is.
Can you imagine the feeling when you get your news as the break with facts and clarity? Our news are reported as it is.
In Africa, and all those who masterminded the way it happened, we have to pay a price.
Enjoy Western programs, projecting culture and tradition to the world.